Buddha Saranai. Let me welcome all our Dhamma friends to the International Dhamma program. The International Dhamma program on this Binara full moon Poya day. This program will be conducted by Venerable Panadure Chandaratana Thero on the topic the nutriment volition Mano Sanchetana Ahar. Venerable Theros, Dhamma friends, our committee members, Binara full moon Poya day is a day of special significance in the Buddhist calendar. Buddhists commemorate the establishment of the Bhikkhuni Sasana. The very first Bhikkhuni ordained was the stepmother of Buddha, Mahaprajapati Gautami. As you all know that it was not an easy task. It was on the fourth occasion with the intervention of Venerable Ananda that Lord Buddha agreed to grant the Bhikkhuni status and laid down 8 tenets of the code of conduct. So, Bhikkhunis, the Lord Buddha granted permission for women to enter the order on these 8 tenets of the code of conduct. So, today also is the poem falls during the vast retreat season of the bhikkhus and many of the temples where the Poya programs are being conducted, the seal programs and also the Bodhi Pujas and other Dhamma programs. Today our Venerable Thero, Venerable Panadure Chandaratana Thero, a Theravada Buddhist monk for nearly 1.5 decades, is currently the deputy abbot of Nissarana Vanaya monastery. The Venerable Thero has been teaching meditation for about a decade. Prior to ordination, he was an electrical engineer and pursued further training and higher education in computer science and Buddhist counseling. Venerable Chandaratana Thero teaches meditation in Sri Lanka and in several countries and is now a much sought after teacher in mindfulness meditation. His special skill is to bring Buddha's teaching close to the practitioner's heart and to make complex Dhamma teachings and meditation techniques understandable by everyone with exceptional lucidity. May I with reverence invite the Venerable Thero to deliver Pansil and commence the Dhamma sermon. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor. So I invite all of you to administer Pansil so that you may recite Namo Tassa 3 times.
Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa.
Buddhang Saranang Gacchami.
Buddhang Saranang Gacchami.
Dhammang Saranang Gacchami.
Dhammang Saranang Gacchami.
Sanghang Saranang Gacchami.
Sanghang Saranang Gacchami.
Dutiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami.
Dutiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami.
Dutiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami.
Dutiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami.
Dutiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami.
Dutiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami.
Tatiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami.
Dutiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami.
Tatiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami.
Dutiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami.
Tatiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami.
Dutiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami.
Saranaгаmanang Sampunnang.
Nambante
Panatipata Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Panatipata Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Adinnādāna Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Adinnādāna Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Kamesu miccācārā veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Musāvādā veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Surāmēraya majjapamādatthānā veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Tisaranena saddhiṃ pañcasīlaṃ dhammam sādhukaṃ surakkhitāṃ kattvā appamādena sampādē tabbang. Okay, dear friends in Dhamma, so in order to start the Dhamma sermon, may we all recite Namo Tassa 3 times. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Mano Sanchetanaya Bhikkave Ahare Pariññāte Tisso Tanha Pariññā Honti iti. Dear friends in Dhamma, probably you have heard about ahara, that is the nutriments. So that is a quite common thing, and we are quite familiar with different kinds of nutriments. And actually Buddha mentioned about 4 types of nutriment. First one is what we are quite familiar with, that is the edible food. And then we have the passa ahara, that is the nutriment contact. And the third one is mano sanchetana ahara, the nutriment mental volition. And the last one is viññāna ahara, that is the nutriment consciousness. Among these 4 types of nutriments, today actually I thought of discussing in detail about the third one, that is called the mano sanchetana ahara. So in a way, sometimes we might wonder why Buddha talks about 4 types of nutriments, because we all know only about the edible food, that is the nutriment that we are discussing or what we typically know. But with the Buddha's knowledge, so he is actually explaining another 3 types of nutriments. Those are very subtle. And interesting thing is, we continuously absorb this food. We continuously, knowingly or unknowingly, we consume these different kinds of foods. So that is where we are getting into a little bit of a trouble, because we know that when we are partaking typical edible food, we know that okay, in the morning I am having breakfast, maybe in the afternoon, okay, I am having my meals, at night I am having my dinner. So I am quite aware of that. But the other 3 are quite very much unfamiliar to us, and unknowingly we are continuously partaking that type of food. So that is where we have to be little careful, and we have to pay a fair amount of attention to these kinds of food. And Venerable Sariputta mentioned, so having proper understanding about food is one of the Sammaditthi. So if we have proper understanding about these 4 nutriments, so then Venerable Sariputta mentioned in the Sammaditthi Sutta, available in Majjhima Nikaya, then we are with proper right view. So therefore it is quite significant to have a fair amount of understanding about these 4 types of food. And today, as I mentioned, I am trying to elaborate, I am trying to give more detail about the third one. Now let me start taking you to typical our nature, our human nature. So we want to always do something. Say I want to start a company, or I want to start a job, I want to start an academy, or I want to start a career, I want to start a living, or maybe I want to do another thing, I want to do this, I want to do that. So likewise, we at different levels of our lives, we have different intentions. So as a kid, when you are, probably you can remember, so you want to pass your exam, maybe the scholarship exam at our early childhood. So we want to pass that, and then we want to learn properly. So we are going to school and we are going to tuition classes because we want to learn properly. So as parents, so we want our children to learn properly. And assume now I am growing up, I want to pass my ordinary level exam, then maybe the A levels, then maybe the university, or maybe I want to go through another kind of technical exam. So likewise, I am continuing my life. I always geared up with doing something. So always I am sort of inclined towards doing something. It may be some studies, it may be some achievement, maybe sports, maybe singing, maybe aesthetic aspects. Different things are there. So many things are there. So many options are there. And nowadays there are millions of different courses are there, different universities are there. So likewise, we are always bombarded with so many options, so many actions. And it is not only bodily actions. So we have other sides as well. That is, through verbal actions also we can do many things. So I can teach using my skills through the speech. And maybe I can start a career in that side. So you also can talk something. You are delivering a speech, or you are talking to someone, and maybe you are singing, maybe you are addressing a gathering. So through speech also we are doing various things. And on the other hand, this is not only the wholesome side. Actually, we sometimes engage with unwholesome activities as well. Through the body, you know that we are doing various unwholesome activities, as we all are familiar with. Maybe say killing, stealing, sexual misconduct. So those are some strong type of unwholesome activities that we engage through the body. Then through speech, probably I can lie, I can continue my speech through some ulterior motives, so that division might happen, and I can cheat another person. So likewise, there are certain unwholesome verbal activities as well. And again, when I am considering my own mind, say through the mind also I can do a lot of tasks. So it is, my body might not involve and my speech might not involve, but still I am thinking. Through thinking also fair amount of karma can be generated. So we can discuss a little bit detail later. So from the beginning of our childhood, so we are very much like engaged with so many activities. It could be bodily activities, it could be verbal activities, and it could be mental activities. So therefore, continuously we are ambitious. We want to do something. I want to do something. So if someone is not doing something, then I am motivating him. Why don't you do that? Why don't you do this? So we consider it as a kind of a liability, kind of a responsibility. And that is also true. Say your child is not interested in, say, learning. As a parent, you want to motivate him. So that is true. Say you are not interested in Dhamma, in meditation. Okay, I am trying to motivate you, or I am trying to pursue you in the Dhamma practice, in the meditation practice. So these are in a way quite good. But on the other hand, if we consider our volition, so are we fully making these volitions, maybe volitional activities which are bodily, volitional activities which would be verbal, volitional activities which are, say, mental, are these really belonging to us? Are these really motivated by our own pure intention? Or are we simply become a victim of someone else? So is my volition purely mine, or is it fairly conditioned by something else? So this is where something that we need to little bit careful. Now suppose you are going to a supermarket. So when you are going to a supermarket to buy a particular product, say you want to buy a piece of bread. So there may be different varieties of bread available. And nowadays, you know that bread price is pretty high. And so different products are available. So why are you selecting a particular product? Is it because of your own, purely your own volition, or is it because of some conditioning already happened within you? because nowadays there are huge amount of advertisements, advertising organizations, advertising is available, and we are continuously watching, say, our television, continuously say exposed to internet, and while traveling we are exposed to various advertisements. So while looking at these things, while going through these things, are we maintaining our purity of the mind, or are we unknowingly getting subjected to different kinds of conditioning? Now, if you carefully look at all these advertising and all the other type of marketing, so they know how to condition our minds, so the consumer's mind. So we are very much like helpless, and we are typically continuing our way of life, and maybe for our enjoyment we are looking at the TV, and while we are enjoying a particular drama, okay, time to time a different kind of an advertisement is broadcast, telecast, and we also simply looking at it for several times. But when you are going to a supermarket, probably a fair influence may be happening because of that advertisement. Or maybe your friend, when he is talking to you, probably he is promoting a particular product. I also am using it, this is pretty good, I have used that for a long time and I am getting a lot of benefits from that, why don't you try that product? So he is very much like sharing his experience. So my way of thinking in that sense is fairly influenced by so many things. So let me come to the Buddha's teaching now, and Buddha mentioned, so these volitions are in that sense little complicated. Now you can see with the brief explanation now I have mentioned, so you can see the volition is little tricky in that sense. So therefore Buddha mentioned, Kayeva bhikkhave sati kaya sancetana hetu uppajjati ajjattam sukha dukkha. So when there are sort of bodily volition available, pleasure and pain is happening. Similarly, when there are verbal volition is available, pleasure and pain, or happiness and suffering going to happen. When there are mental volition is available, happiness and unhappiness going to happen. So that means happiness and unhappiness can happen because of bodily volitional activities, because of verbal volitional activities, and again because of mental volitional activities. Now ultimately, we may be going through either happiness, either unhappiness because of these three kinds of volitional activities. Now that is one area that we need to little bit careful about. So three types of volitional activities are there. So those can produce either happiness or unhappiness. So we are subjected to that. Another side Buddha mentioned, Samangvatam bhikkhave mano sankharam abhisankaroti. So you yourself can further construct these different kinds of volitions. So these, whatever the mental volitions happening within the mind, and we do our own constructions. So I am not simply allowing that to happen as it is. So whenever there is a little volition happen, now with those my past experiences, with various preconceived ideas, various conditioning already available in our mind, so now I am little bit coloring that volition. So I am doing that. So my preconditioning, my previous experiences, my upbringing, my culture, my nationality, whatever the things already gathered in my mind is now fairly contributing, so that that particular volition happen is fairly somewhat fabricated. So it can happen within ourselves as well. And now further the problem becomes little aggravated. Buddha mentioned, Parevasa tang bhikkhave mano sankharam abhisankaroti. So someone else also can do it. As I mentioned, your friend can motivate you. It can happen in the present, or it can happen in the positive aspect, or it can happen even in the negative side. Say your neighbor can motivate you. Your neighbor can influence you. So various advertisements can influence our way of volition. And various other, say, influences are there. So through those are not really belong to us. Those are quite external. And those external conditions, those external factors actually have a fair influence to this generation of the volition. And interestingly, Buddha further elaborate, Sampajano vatam bhikkhave mano sankharang abhisankaroti. And it can happen knowingly. Say you know, okay, I am going to the supermarket, now I am going to buy this particular product. So you are very well aware of that. Say I am going to meet a particular person, so you are volitionally doing that and you are very aware of that. That is sampajano. So it is with clear comprehension. You are fully aware of what is going on. But that has some kind of influence already coming from the past. That's a different thing. But presently, if you are doing some activity, you are fully aware. Assume that you are a meditator, you are a mindful practitioner. Maybe currently you know, okay, I am selecting this particular product. Somewhat aware. But another thing is, Buddha mentioned, asampajano vatam bhikkhave mano sankharang abhisankaroti. And unknowingly also there is this kind of constructions can happen. Now you can see a fairly complicated subject in that sense. So one thing is we need to know, okay, three types of volitions. Bodily volitions, verbal volitions, and the mental volitions are there. On the other hand, because of these volitions, happiness and unhappiness going to produce. And those volitional constructions can happen because of our own initiative. Or these volitions can happen because of someone else's initiative. Someone else also can influence us. And when these volitional activities are happening, we could be fully aware of it. And on the other hand, we are not aware of it. And there are some asampajana. So those are without our understanding or without our full comprehension, also some things can happen. So therefore now you can see, so when we are continuously have kind of a chetana, kind of an activity, kind of an action, so it is a little bit conditioned process, can happen at three different ways. It can influence my own initiative, it can happen through someone else's initiation, and again it can happen through my own awareness, or unknowingly also things can happen. Now Buddha give a very interesting simile to this what you call this mano sanchetana ahara. So mental volition, now Buddha going to explain. So this explanation is available in the Puttamansa Sutta in Samyutta Nikaya. So Buddha mentioned how we should know about the mental volition. So Buddha mentioned through a very interesting simile. So he say there is a pit of burning embers, and it is quite deep, and it is a height of a man. Now there is a pit, it is with the burning embers. But interestingly, there is no smoke and there is no flames. But remember, it is burning. So this particular person is aware. Now there is a pit of embers, even though I can't see it. There is no flame, there is no smoke. There is burning embers available in this particular pit. So always, therefore, he is careful not to go there, not to go closer to there, because he know if unfortunately, say accidentally, if he fallen into it, then he'll be, say, get into big trouble. But Buddha mentioned, so when this person is aware of that, suppose there is two strong people, two strong men carrying him towards that pit of embers. Now what's the situation? And there Buddha mentioned, so when he is being carried, when he is being pushed towards that pit of embers, burning embers, Buddha mentioned his intention. That means this particular person's intention, his aspiration, and his resolve is always away from that. Because he know, I am going to be finished. If these two people carry me and put into that particular pit, I'll be dead. I'll be into big trouble. It will be really painful. See, so he is trying his best to be free from these two men, trying to go away from these two men, because he is quite aware of that danger ahead of him. So Buddha mentioned, monks, you should know about the mental volition, the nutriment mental volition like this. So why Buddha has given this kind of a simile? Now that is the problem. Now we need to look at why Buddha mentioned like that. Now, if we little bit carefully recognize, are these all mental volitions take us into the proper direction? Are all these mental volitions are for the favor of us, for the benefit of us? As I mentioned, are these real mental volitions really giving the happiness to me? Or are they sort of taking me towards a kind of a destruction, kind of a devastation, kinds of a danger? So that is where we need to be careful. So that's why I explained in the previously, now there are all these mental volitions have many influences, many variations. And are these variations, are these all different influences are in favor of us? Are they helping us to cross the samsara, get away from the samsara? Or are these volitions always binding us towards the samsara? Or are these quite in favor of us, dangerous to us, harmful to us? Or are they really favorable to us and giving us release from the samsara? Now, if you consider carefully, most of these volitional activities are in favor of us. But we think that these are favorable. I am the one taking the decision. I took that decision. That is my decision. I am the one doing it. I want to do it, so I am doing it. So that is how we interpret it. But when we are considering that, so this so-called I, that particular volition, that kind of ambition, as I mentioned, are coming from various other influences. So even though I am telling, okay, I did that, I told that, I thought that. So all those actions, it could be bodily actions, it could be verbal actions, it could be mental actions, have a great influence which could be unfavorable to us. Now, then we have to be careful. Assume that we understood the gravity, we understood the little bit complex situation. Now we are trying to be careful about our volition. So volitionally, when I am doing bodily activity, I am producing karma. Volitionally, when I am doing certain, say, verbal activity, it has the potential to generate karma. Volitionally, when I am producing mental activity, I am producing karma. Now, if we consider a little bit of karma, Buddha mentioned, so for this karma generation, there are 3 roots. These are quite familiar to you. The lobha, dosa, moha. So this karma generation can happen through these 3 roots, the greed, hatred and delusion. And on the other hand, the positive side is, those can happen because of alobha, adosa, amoha. Those are, say, non-greed, non-hatred and non-delusion. And on the other hand, when we have associated something in the past, say you went through some experience, you went through some incidents, and you are thinking about it. Atite bhikkhave chandaragattaniye dhamme arabbo chando jayati. So when you have associated something, say, interesting or something quite significant, and you are involved in thinking about it. So when you are thinking, you are delighted about it, or you are a little bit worried about it, which is kind of a past activity. So because of that also can karma produce. Say, you are thinking about the future. Anagate bhikkhave chandaragatiye dhamme arabba chando jayati. So there are some interesting activities that you are planning, going to do in the future. Assume that you are a person, a young person, now at the age of your marriage, so you are planning your wedding. So a lot of things are there to plan, think, fantasize. Very interesting. Quite delighted in thinking about it. So, volitional activity. Pachuppanne bhikkave chandaragathaniye dhamme arabba chando jayati. And there are present activities available. And those are quite interesting. And we are fully involved in that. You are quite happy. And the certain amount of volition is there. So, the karma can generate. So, you can see, it is not really the bodily activity. It is not really the verbal activity. Even the mental activity, it could have happened in the past. It may going to happen in the future. You are simply planning. Or it may be happening in the present. Still, it has the potential to generate karma. So, a little bit complicated. You can see, there's a fair amount of gravity into this subject, into this volition. Then what is the escape? What is the solution? Now that is where we have to recognize now these things are fairly little bit dangerous. I am subjected to all these different influences. Knowingly or unknowingly, I am going through all these situations. I am accumulating a lot of karma, so I have to pay for that. So they can have the results maybe within this life or in a future life. So now probably you need to understand the gravity of the situation. Now that is where the meditation also comes to the picture. So we are trying to have kind of three-pole solution, we can say. So one side is the sila. Say through the moral activity, through a moral conduct, kind of ethical conduct. So you are trying to sort of avoid all those very grave, very powerful, dangerous kind of bodily activities, verbal activities and mental activities. As much as possible, you are restraining yourself. Not killing, not stealing, not involved with sexual misconduct, not lying, not taking intoxicants. So likewise, we know about the moral aspect. So through that, we are trying to somewhat restrain ourselves. But it can only produce the solution only to some extent. Now we have to go another step. So that is where we have to calm down the mind. We have to calm down the sources, different kinds of causes which is producing kind of an agitation in the mind, which is producing fair amount of unwholesome activities. It is sort of motivating the mind, motivating the body, motivating the words in order to conduct unwholesome thinking, unwholesome activities, unwholesome speech. So those different defilements, we call them as hindrances. So those also have to be addressed. So we have to go through a little bit of samadhi, calming down process. So we are no more subjected to the influence of those undesirable, unfavorable, kind of unwholesome hindrances. And then we have to have another permanent solution coming through vipassana. Now, let me explain a little bit of how we may approach practically. Now, say you are taking meditation subject, say anapanasati, mindfulness on breathing. So when you are involved with mindfulness on breathing, fair amount of volitional activities are calmed down. Why we say like that? Now we are not involving with any kind of bodily activity. Now even though we consider, okay, I am sitting and I am practicing anapanasati, isn't it a bodily activity? Maybe true, but how many volitional activities are there? Now you know, breathing is a involuntary process. I don't need to volitionally breathe. So if you are doing volitional breathing, forceful breathing, so that means still you haven't come to the proper balance. That means you haven't reached the proper practice of anapanasati. At the beginning, actually, we do this mistake. So when we think about, say, practicing anapanasati, probably I am forcefully breathing, I am trying to control my breath. So these are kind of initial problems we unnecessarily continue. But later, you may understand, okay, I don't need to struggle like that. I don't need to artificially breathe. let the breathing happens naturally. So that decision may happen because of your own practical experiences. Say now you understood, okay, let the body breathe naturally. I simply have to look at kind of a distant observation. I don't need to do anything. My eyes are closed and I am sitting in a fairly silent place, and say I'm not eating at that time. I am not experiencing any kind of a special taste, and my body is calm and still. I am not involved with any bodily activity, volitional activity. So it is simply sitting. So in other terms, so we are fairly minimizing volitional activities at this level. I mean the bodily volitional activities. How about verbal volitional activity? So I mean, if we consider the gross level of verbal activity, so that is the very much like the talking. So say when you are participating in a say meditation retreat, so we instruct you, don't talk, keep silence, maintain silence, noble silence. So we are calming down that verbal volitional activity as well. Suppose now you are sitting, you closed your eyes, environment is also fairly silent, and you are also not talking. Now volitional bodily activities are fairly minimized. Volitional verbal activities are also fairly minimized. Now, I mean, this is an artificial situation we are generating, doesn't matter. But you need to understand, now we are having kind of a solution to some extent. All the bodily activities are calmed down, volitional activities. All the verbal volitional activities are calmed down. Now what we do? Now we are observing the breathing. So breathing happens. It is a natural, ongoing process. We don't need to participate in that, or we don't need to change it. We don't need to put any intention to that. So our intention necessary is simply to be mindful about it. So if it is a in-breath, so I have to be simply aware of the in-breath. If it is a out-breath, I simply have to be aware of that out-breath. Now probably, even though we may be continuing our anapanasati, we didn't understand this kind of a significance in this practice. But you can understand why Buddha has recommended it. Because it has that kind of a solution to those complicated situations. Those complicated problems, it has a simple solution. So your bodily activities are calmed down, verbal activities are calmed down. Now you are trying to minimize mental activities as well. So for that to happen, actually you need to go through several steps. Say, for example, you are aware of the in-breath, you are aware of the out-breath. So you are continuing, you are developing the mindfulness. Your mind is now less involved with the past, less involved with the future. Now you are fairly in the present moment. So as I mentioned, so your fantasizing with respect to the future is fairly minimized now. So those volitional activities are fairly reduced now. So your involvement about regrets, worrying with respect to the past also fairly reduced now. So that is also fairly calmed down. Assume that you were thinking about something, regretting about something, worrying about something. But with the development of mindfulness, say this particular simple technique, okay, you are at least for this time during your meditation hour, for example, say you have minimized that. Now you simply have the present moment, say present moment activity. Okay, doesn't matter. Okay, I'm just participating in that, observing that, investigating that. I am trying to be mindful of that. Now, as you are continuing this practice, later you may understand, okay, what is the activity going through in the mind. Say, different kinds of thoughts. When a thought happens in the mind, so how you are participating in that, how you are constructing on top of that, how you are adding your preferences onto that, how you are constructing onto that. So it's very much like weaving type of situation. Say a thought come, and on top of that thought you add your own intention. On top of that thought you add your own likes, your own dislikes, your past experience, your future thoughts, your future plans. Now you do a little bit of fabrication into this thought. Now it is multiplying. It is growing in different directions. So you are now thinking about the past, thinking about the future. Now it is growing. Now ultimately it can even grow into the level of conceptual proliferation. Now we are lost. Now you need to understand, okay, let me reduce this. Let me minimize these mental activities as well. Now, once you carefully understood these fabrications that you do onto the thought which is happening in the mind, then you may understand, okay, these are the things that I am unnecessarily adding. So these additions, these constructions, these fabrications, still continuing, maybe, doesn't matter. But you may understand, okay, it is a simple thought came to the mind, but I am the one making it a huge thing. I am the one constructing it so to a very powerful level. How about minimizing this? Now that is where Buddha mentioned these sankharas, mental volitions, are like a banana trunk. Now that is also a very interesting simile. Why Buddha give such kind of a simile to all these mental fabrications, constructions happen in the mind? It's a banana trunk. Suppose that you are not familiar with the banana trunk and assume that you are going in search of a heartwood. And suppose you don't know about banana, you have never seen about banana. And say you come across banana tree. Say it's a pretty huge tree and it is quite straight, and you thought it may have it might have a good solid trunk. It might have a hardwood. Suppose you cut the top, cut the bottom, and now you are trying to find out the, say, hardwood. Assume that you are peeling it out. Slowly you are peeling one after the other, and ultimately what are you getting? Basically nothing. So you may understand, okay, even though it appears like solid, it is not really solid. Even though it appears like kind of substantial, you may understand it is not substantial. There is nothing there. There is nothing, there is no hardwood there. There is no inner core. There is no substance. So Buddha say, our thought processes, so-called emotions, so-called mental volitions, the huge way of worrying, fantasizing, plans, if we properly analyze, if we go to the source, very source, slowly assume that you are going back. You are using Yoniso Manasikara, wise reflection, and slowly you are going back to the very bottom, very source. And Buddha mentioned, there is nothing is there. It is very much insubstantial, simply empty. There is no inner core into these mental volitions. Now, this process has to happen within our mind. Now, this is, we can say, so Buddha approach the solution in different way. So, one thing is the, say, bodily volitions, volitional activities. So, we can, through the sila, assume that we are calming down. And huge amount of verbal volitions, volitional activities, also through the sila, assume that we are calming down. Mental volitions. So that has to go through the meditation. So with the practice, you start understanding how these integral happenings, fabrications, constructions are happening in the mind. And slowly you start, say, de-learning this process. Now you understand, okay, this particular thought has come from the past. This influence has come from my wish. So this particular thought probably I have added because of my friend's influence. Okay, this particular thought going through because of my own likes. So likewise, if you are carefully little bit of observe your own mind, probably you can have a little bit of understanding. So why these different thoughts are happening? Is it really my own construction, or is it because of someone else's influence? So can I calm down these mental volitions? Is it possible for me to keep the mind quiet? How about mind free from inner chattering? Now you know probably if you recognize your mind, continuously talking, chattering. So never ending. Now through the meditation, particularly say for example, even before we go to very deep meditation, even through say simple walking meditation, simple say mindfulness on breathing, it has a fair chance to calm down these mental volitions, because the vitakkas, different thinking, different thought patterns or thinking processes can be fairly calmed down because of these mindfulness practices. Now you feel kind of very calm, very tranquil. It is very much like the heavy rain has stopped. Now you feel calm, kind of a quietude in the mind. So you are sitting, no bodily activities. You are not talking, you are silent, no verbal activities. And even thinking has stopped. No thoughts even. How about that? So probably you might understand what a kind of a release. So all this time I was struggling with this, but now it's very much like complete release, complete calming down. Inner chatter has completely subsided. Now these kinds of solutions, these kinds of experiences slowly have to happen within yourself. Now if you are trying to give the proper solution to those troubles, those difficult situations, and this solution has to happen within our mind, within ourselves. Now Buddha mentioned, if you properly understood mental volition, the nutriment mental volition, you may understand the three types of tanha. You know, three types of tanha: kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. So how particularly, mainly, our volition is conditioned? Who is the one telling me to do this? Okay, say, so you have seen a electric car. Now these days, very difficult to find fuel. Say you seen an advertisement, and you have seen an electric car. Now you got a real desire. Why can't I buy electric car? Because today's for burning fuel problem, okay, this would be the best solution. Let me buy an electric car. So it appear like a good solution. Now who has mentioned that, or who has influenced that? So probably you can say, okay, if you deeply analyze in a more Dhamma way, so you can say it's a kama tanha. It's a kind of a sensual desire. So you want to have say comfort, and today you can't afford the fuel. Say I am going for another solution. Say that is a electric car. Say you are in the age of young age, so you are seeking for a partner. So you see a particular person and you feel interested, and now you are approaching her, approaching him. Somehow you want to start a relationship. So who has driven us in that point? That also we can say, okay, kama tanha, sensual desire. Say you want to buy a good house. So nowadays it is difficult to go through construction, so all the material are very expensive. So you assume that you want to buy a already built house. Who has influenced that? Say you want to change your job. So currently you are getting some salary and you thinking of changing the job because you need more money. Current salary is not enough. So who has really told that? Who is the one taking or governing your mind. And say as a kid, say you want to become a doctor, you want to become an engineer, you want to become a lawyer. So who is telling that? Is it your mother, is your father, is your teacher motivating you? Now say you have become an elder now. So you want to go for a promotion. Who is telling that? Who is sort of influencing that? Is your wife influencing that? Is your parent influencing that? Or is it coming from yourself? Now there's a desire in ourselves. So that is called a desire to become. So I was always want to become someone. Currently I am not happy. I am a little bit unsatisfactory, a little bit of frustration is available in the mind. So I am always looking forward. Okay, I want to find this. Only if I find this, I'll be happy. Only if I could be with her, I'll be happy. Only if I get that job, I'll be happy. Only if I become the, say, president, I'll be happy. So different things are there. So I want to become someone. I want to become a special person. Say, I want to become a rich person. I want to become a successful person. I want to become an arahant. So all different kinds of desires are there. So the second type is called the bhavatanha. So you always want to become. The present moment, not good, not enough, not satisfied. I am not in a satisfactory level. So I want to become this or that or whatever it is. And so the underneath we have the desire to get rid of. I don't need it. I want to get rid of it. I want to go out of it. So always the rejecting the present moment, rejecting the present experience, rejecting whatever other situation. So I am the opposite of desire to become. So I have the other side. I want to get rid of it. Vibhavatanha. Now, if we carefully recognize these mental volitions, so there is a significant influence come through craving. So next time when you got a particular intention to do something, a bodily activity, you can recognize, is it influenced by type of craving? Why am I doing this? It could be a bodily activity. Why am I doing this? Is it really necessary? Is it simply to satisfy my sensual desire? Or is it simply to satisfy the desire to become, bhavatanha? Or I want to get rid of it. Is it the reason that I am continuing this particular bodily activity? Say on the other hand, say you want to tell something. You want to make a speech, you want to do whatever that verbal activity, volitional activity. So we can check, is it really influenced by craving? So I am talking to someone. Now is it influenced by sensual desire? Say you are writing a poem, you are writing a song. So is it influenced by craving? Say you are doing a particular speech. So do I want to sort of show off myself? Is it the real intention? Is it influenced by that desire to become, bhavatanha? So likewise, now if we little bit carefully recognize this internal part, the cause of our intention, so all these intentions are, Buddha mentioned, governed by these desires. And not only the manosanchetana ahara, mental volition, Buddha mentioned tanha as the reason for all four types of nutriments, all four types of ahara. And not only that, Buddha mentioned as a partner throughout this samsara, it is not that you have your good friend or your wife or your husband, but rather craving is your partner. Tanha dutiyo puriso tiga madhana sansara. So we are accompanying tanha, craving, as our partner. So that partner is always telling us, okay, you go for a better job, you go for a good activity, good promotion, next level, next exam, next achievement. next this, next that. So always motivating us, always say pushing us, do this, do that. So I am like a slave. I am simply abiding by the orders given by this tanha. Now, if we understand this, Buddha mentioned, okay, if you understood mental volition properly, you may understand all these influences coming through craving. An interesting point is, if you understood properly this craving, you can even become an arahant. So that means when we are going through understanding, recognizing all these influences, so slowly kind of a intention may even arise to calm down all these intentions, reduce these intentions, remove this tanha. And that is also an intention. Let me have an intention to minimize intention. Let me have a craving to remove craving. Tanhang nissaya tanha pahatabbu. Now, very interesting. You can see how Buddha put it like, now we need to have a different kind of a volition. For what? To remove volition, to overcome volition, to reduce volition. And we have a kind of a craving. For what? To remove craving. Tanhan nissaya tanha pahatabbu. So that is very interesting. The way how Buddha approached this complicated problem is quite interesting. So if the complete eradication of craving has happened, then you attain Nibbana. So then the end of the problem. So that is why Buddha mentioned, if one understood this Mano Sanchetana Ahara comprehensively, fully, then he becomes an Arahant. You can see what a subject it is, what an interesting subject it is, even though it is quite a little bit complicated and little dangerous. But if we properly understand that, then we have a solution coming through the craving, to minimize craving, so that we are going through a particular type of practice, and ultimately we can completely free from all this trouble. And that is what actually I want to share with you. And that is why Venerable Sariputta highlights that if one understands the nutriment volition, if one understands all four types of ahara, nutriments, actually he is in the proper view, correct view. And then he can completely abandon raga-anusaya, he can completely abandon patigha-anusaya, he can abandon these wrong views. I am, the conceit can be eradicated, and the avijjam pahaya vijjam uppadetta, and one can remove ignorance and produce or generate the wisdom. Ditteva dhamme dukkha santa karo hoti. And in this very life, one can end the suffering. Now you can see very interesting subject, and a lot of things are there to sort of explore, and more than that, a lot of things are there to practically practice. So we have to continue our practice, having understand the gravity of this. So we are always motivated to do something and recognize what is the reason of doing this. Can't I keep quiet? When I want to talk, can't I keep quiet? Is it really necessary to talk? When I want to think, is it necessary to think? Can't I avoid thinking or minimize thinking? When it is necessary, it doesn't matter, I can think. Say you want to consider something happened in the past, doesn't matter, okay, let me consider that. Say if you want to design something, plan something, doesn't matter, okay, let me design that. But how about when it is not necessary to think? Can I keep the mind quiet, free from thinking, free from any mental volition? So these are very interesting areas that we can recognize, and therefore I like to offer this Dhamma teaching for you to reflect. And I motivate, rather say I also request you to explore this subject and get on to a practical solution, so that we can have at least minimized bodily activities, minimize verbal activities, and minimize mental activities, so that we can have kind of a sabbha sankhara samatha, that is nothing but the Nibbana. Thank you very much for quiet listening.
Thank you very much. Venerable Thero, and much merit to Venerable Thero. Today it was a very, I think, a very deep and interesting Dhamma Desana that's on the nutriment volition, and where the 4 nutriments are concerned, the most important one on the mental volition, which Venerable Thero went into in great depth. We have present today also Venerable Vajrarame Jnanasiha Thero. I would like to invite Venerable Thero to maybe to give a few comments about the topic that was discussed.
I personally don't have any comments, but it was a very good sermon, and I enjoyed listening to that. I learned quite a lot, and it's very practical, and it's something that we have to do. And as Indians, if it's possible for us to understand the 4 nutriments, it's from that it's possible for us to gain the final goal. So it's very, I would say, it's an extremely interesting way of presenting that very clearly the Venerable Bhante presented, and we are grateful to him. That's all that I have to say.
Sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We have a few questions, but before I put the questions, we have a few members of our committee and on the other panelists who are present here. So maybe I can ask Udaya, you have any comments or questions? You have to unmute here.
Yes, hi. There are a lot of good questions, so I want to give more time to look at the questions and find answers. And some of the questions that I had are also reflected in those questions in the Q&A. But basically, I want to say this is a very delicate subject, but I think we all got a lot out of this. Basically, how it applies. I like particularly the portion where we do the 5 precepts maybe, but without knowing what it is. So I think each of the 5 precepts you need to analyze it a bit more to find out how why we are doing that and things like that. That will give us, as Bhante said, it will lead to have a very peaceful mind, relaxed mind, and how it relates to your actually the health and fitness is a very important thing these days. And we tend to taking a pill or this and that, go to the gym, we'll take care of that to some extent, yes. But then there is other 2 aspects that we forget, and that's what I think Bhante highlighted in this speech talk today. And those are the ones that we will work on. And that what I learned from that is it gives you the treatment for your health by way of reducing the pressure, maybe take the stress off, and that helps your health. So I think there is a connection, very good connection, and which we normally overlook, and we can start with the 5 precepts and analyze it to calm down your senses, all the things that the bad things that can happen. So I think this is a very good takeaway from this. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Venerable Thero, you have any comments to make on that, or is
No, I think he affirmed about the morality aspect, because that is where the more heavy part we are sort of calming down. So I truly agree with him. Yes.
Right, thank you. Senator, you have any questions or comments? Senator, can't hear you, please. I think he's having a little problem on the questions.
Can you hear me now?
Now right, now okay, yeah, please.
Is to inform you that we are following the Brahmin Nonsense Dhamma program Saturdays at 8:30 Vintage time. We use the correct Sinhala as well as English words with different visuals we have to do. I'm thankful for sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Samaragi is Venerable Thero, one of our committee members based in Winnipeg, Canada.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I will now go through there are quite a number of questions. Just briefly, first one is from Chandrani Hettiarajji. In Sammaditthi Sutta explains the way to understand nutrients lead to Sammaditthi development. And today, Venerable Sir, your Dhamma Desana made it very clear that Anapanasati can be applied for realization. Can you please explain what strategies we have to apply?
Yeah, actually, Anapanasati is a broader subject. So at the beginning, we are, as I mentioned, it is very much like calming down bodily activities, intentional activities, and then the calming down verbal activities. And then actually it helps to calm down mental activities as well. Say, Anapanasati is quite recommended to calm down excessive thinking, obsessive thinking. So recommended, very interesting meditation subject to minimize obsessive thinking. So that means while sitting, so you are calming down all three types of volitions, and later it may give you even a complete result. So if you are familiar with the Anapanasati Sutta available in Majjhima Nikaya, so Buddha give a comprehensive answer to this whole problem. Say through the body you are calming down yourself, and you are developing mindfulness, clear comprehension, and various other necessary skills. And then even using the different feelings, you are developing this subject, different skills. And then another 4 steps Buddha mentioned about recognizing your mind. Say, what are the different kinds of thoughts arising? And you are understanding that, and you understand their nature, how they are rising and passing away, and how different thoughts are happening. And now even you getting a kind of a ability to look at these thoughts objectively. Now typically what happens is, when we get a thought, so rather than we consider it as a thought, so we consider it as a kind of invitation to act. Say, immediately assume that you get a thought to enjoy an ice cream. So now you immediately get up and say, this Dhamma sermon is quite boring, let me have an ice cream. So you probably can get that kind of a thought. So you get up from the seat and you go to the fridge and you open it and you start enjoying the ice cream. Now this is how we are actively engaged with maybe bodily activity, maybe verbal activity. But how about recognizing at that very early stage, when you are getting that desire, okay, I want to have an ice cream. So how about recognizing that as a thought? So this is how actually we have to find out a very interesting solution. So before you initiate the action, so you understand what has really caused for me to take this action. That's why Buddha mentioned, so whenever different bodily actions are there to conduct, you feel that I need to do this bodily activity. So Buddha asks us to reflect that. Paccavekkitva kayena kammam katabbam. So whenever kind of a bodily activity you thought of doing, so you need to reflect. Is it really necessary? Am I being motivated by some kind of a craving, or is it really necessary? So likewise you do a little bit of reflection. And even when you want to tell something, so Buddha asks, okay, paccavekkitva vachaya kammam katabbam. So you may be little bit careful. Why am I telling it? Is it really necessary? Why am I talking to him? Why am I talking to her? What is the real urge? Why it is really necessary? Similarly, Buddha mentioned, okay, when you are thinking about something, so is it really necessary? If I can step back and check, is it really useful thing I am thinking? I am worrying about the past. Is it really necessary? Can't I stop? I am planning about the future. Is it really necessary? So likewise, so we can little reflect on what we do. And Anapanasati actually help us to develop this skill. The solution is actually not itself in the Anapanasati, but the necessary clarity of mind being developed through Anapanasati. So then those skills are altogether we can apply, and then we can come up with the solution. And later, say Buddha, through Anapanasati, Buddha mentioned, okay, you can even develop Bojjhanga, the enlightenment factors, and you can go for a, say, kind of a lasting solution. Yeah.
Thank you, Venerable Thero. There is a question from Bandula. How and where does the Mano Sanketana Ahara or volitions fit in the Paticca Samuppada? Example, Samkara or Vijnana?
Yeah, actually, as you know, in the Paticcasamuppada that say 12 links, Avijja Pacca Sankhara, Sankhara Pacca Vijnanam. So at that Sankhara level, actually we can recognize two levels. One level is the gross level of Sankhara, the formations, and the other level is the very subtle level of formations. Say, if we consider the gross level, so those are the bodily volitional activities, verbal volitional activities, and the mental volitional activities. So those are the Sankhara. And the subtle level is, for the bodily volitional activities, we have what we call as Assasa Passasa, this in-breath and out-breath, the breathing, appear as the most subtle level of Sankhara, bodily level. The verbal level, the most subtle level, is called Vitakka Vichara, the applied mind and the sustained mind, sustained thought. So that is the Vitakka Vichara. The most subtle form of mental volition, Buddha mentioned as Vedana and Sanya, and that is the feeling and the perception. So those are the most subtlest levels of ingredient in the mind. So therefore, we can recognize that Sankhara, Avijja Pacca Sankhara, that Sankhara is the volition that we are talking, and it conditions the consciousness. Actually, that is also very interesting to mention in certain suttas. So Buddha mentioned, say, how when we are craving on some kind of an activity, bodily activity or verbal activity, so that helps to establish consciousness, firmly establish consciousness. And firm establishment of consciousness promote Nama Rupa, name and form. And now they are in proper contact. Now it produces kind of other activities, say future existence, bhava, state of bhava, and all the different forms of suffering is going to happen. So therefore, the mental volition is, therefore, we can say that is the second link of this typical 12-link formula that we are familiar with.
Thank you, Venerable. The next question from Laya Alas. At the point of calm contemplation during the meditation, one sees the fleeting nature of the mind actions as well as the bodily function. Now at that point, does one turn to Vitakka and Vichara in order to turn the mind volitional activities to looking at Raga, Dosha and Amoha and Anicca, Dukkha and Anatta as Vipassana? Or does this realization of Anicca, Dukkha and Anatta comes naturally without any Vitakka or Vichara?
Yeah, actually we can say like this. Now, at this level, Vitakka Vichara is your applied mind and the investigating mind, observing mind. You are sustaining your attention on a particular object, and you are trying to investigate that particular object, and you are trying to understand its real nature. But your mind has to be fairly quiet. So now Vitakka Vichara is not the thoughts actually. It is not that you are thinking, rather you are with a very calm mind, a fairly concentrated mind, and with that kind of a mind, say you are carefully observing different type of phenomena. It could be different feelings, it could be different bodily phenomena, and it could be different thoughts. Now you are carefully observing. Now through that observation, while you are continuing that distant observation, Now, what is the reality those different phenomena are showing? So that reality is what we are trying to understand. So that reality, what they are showing is anicca. That they may show us, okay, they are really impermanent. They may show us that they are beyond our control. They may show us that we can't really depend on them, that we can't really find satisfaction through them. So that is their reality. It is not that I am trying to influence my mind through other conditioning. Rather, I am just keeping a very non-judgmental observation. I don't know what is their real nature. So let me understand that. I am little curious about it. So that is the kind of an attitude that we need to have during Vipassana meditation. It is not that through a lot of book knowledge that you are approaching the subject and you are trying to prove the book knowledge. Rather, you are going with a very, soft, fresh, beginner's mind, and you simply observe how they are behaving. So if they are really impermanent, they may show that. If they are quite unsatisfactory, they may show that. If they are non-governable, insubstantial, they may show that. So they are the ones showing us, they are the ones teaching us how impermanent they are, how unsatisfactory they are, how non-governable they are. So understanding may happen within our mind based on that observation. So true nature we may understand through that observation. Hope my answer is clear. Yeah.
Next one is from an anonymous attendee. I will read the question. Venerable Sir, are the mental images that arise in our minds caused by or associated with asavas or mental fermentations?
Yeah, it can happen due to various reasons. Say mental images are happening, assume that you are practicing anapanasati. Say your breath has fairly calmed down, and at that moment probably kind of mental images even can happen in the mind. It can happen due to various reasons. Say you have associated someone in the past, so kind of immediately a kind of a thought, a memory can happen in the mind. So as you said, it is kind of a asava, kind of a fetter. Or say if you are thinking about the future, you have great plans about a particular subject. Once your breath calm down, so those thoughts pertaining to, or the images pertaining to your future activity plan can happen. So likewise, different reasons are there. We can't say exactly only the asavas. We can say, fair influence is there because of the fetters, asavas, and there may be various other reasons as well. Yeah.
Question from Ranjit Thakru. Venerable Sir, an excellent presentation on a difficult topic. As a layman, it is difficult to practice continuous meditation. Would you say that being mindfulness is the most important action to overcome involuntary volitions?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, we can minimize now. Say as you have properly understood. So you may understood that okay, a lot of activities are there now. I am in a little bit difficult situation, dangerous situation. So how can, as a layman, I can have some solution? Yes, mindfulness is a very good solution. And not only that, clear comprehension you have to add. So that's why probably you have heard about the clear comprehension, sampajanya. Say when it is coming to the commentary, so the commentary talks about 4 types of sampajanya: sattaka sampajanya, sappaya sampajanya, then gochara sampajanya and asammoha sampajanya. Now when some activity is there to do, you are a little bit reflecting, is it really useful, is it really meaningful to do that? Sattaka sampajanya. Say if you want to tell something and you are a little bit reflecting, is it really necessary to tell this? Say you want to tell something to your wife, to your child, to your husband, to your boss. Is it really necessary to tell this? So you do a little bit of a reflection. And when you are telling it, okay, you are using proper terms. Yeah, when you are conducting something, you are using proper, methodologies. So that is we can say gochara sampajanya. And while doing that, you are trying yourself to establish mindfulness. You are doing it mindfully. You are talking mindfully. And you are acting mindfully. Bodily activities you are doing as much as possible mindfully. And through that, as you said, we can minimize that autopilot kind of thing. Say without my knowledge, say I am talking to someone, I am angry with someone, I am blaming someone, so I have gone out of my control. So, but when you are very much like monitoring yourself because of the practice of mindfulness, then you can at least calm down yourself. You can apply breaks to your different activities. And I think mindfulness practice is giving us a very good solution. Yeah.
Next one from Gamini Javira. How do we avoid deceptive defilements in the mind? Are those defilements part of the mental volitions?
Defilements. Actually, volition we can say as one thing and defilements as another thing. Actually, the defilements can greatly influence the volition. Say, if you consider when it comes to say Abhidhamma, so there are 52 kinds of Chetasika. So among that, Chetana is one Chetasika, but there are another 51 other things, and therefore defilements, other thoughts have different their own stance, and therefore I can't say the volition is exactly defilement, but defilement can have a great influence on how to color the volition. Yeah.
And, next question from Sanat Mahavitanage. Venerable Sir, what is the name of the sutta you stated with regard to the pit of burning embers?
Yeah, it is actually called Putta Mansa Sutta, available in what you call the Nidana Sangyutta. In the Sangyutta Nikaya, Connected Discourses of the Buddha, there are different volumes. The second volume is called Nidana Vagga. So let me copy you the link of that sutta. Very interesting sutta. Very interesting sutta. Buddha gives a very interesting similes for all. So I am trying to put it to the chat box so that everyone can look at it.
Thank you, Venerable. Next question from Prematilaka Mahagedara. Reverend Sir, can you suggest a simple way to control our mind in this complex lifestyle?
Yeah. So, Professor, please send this link what I have sent to you to the others. Yeah. Complex lifestyle. So, the problem is also very complex, and we also have complex lifestyles. But as you probably know, so thinking that I have a complex lifestyle, so I have no time to practice. So it's not a solution. It's not an excuse, because ultimately you are the ones going to be responsible. Say, true. When compared to the past, say we have kind of a complex lifestyle. True, but is it really an excuse? Can we say, okay, I have a lot of duties, a lot of responsibilities, say complex lifestyle? Can I say that and make an excuse? So Kamma has no such excuse. So we need to see. True, problems are there. Situation is difficult, but we are the ones, our own saviors. So Buddha can teach us. Buddha can show us the path. So it is our own responsibility to continue the path, to practice the path, and to find a solution. Yeah, and actually, we can say with the arising or the getting popularizing of this mindfulness practices in the different communities, different society levels. So people are finding a fair solution through mindfulness practice. Now it is not only the monks now practicing mindfulness. It is not only the meditation that the mindfulness is trying to give a solution, and various different societies, various different departments, different levels of the subjects. Societies are now using mindfulness practices to give some solution. So therefore, I can't say, we can say about few decades ago, mindfulness is only known to monks. But now it is not that. But many are now get on to such kind of practices, and they are not really, monks. They are maybe really, say, responsible people. Responsible in the sense they are with a lot of complex lifestyles, but they start practicing mindfulness. Yeah.
Next one from Tamara De Silva. To attain nirvana or become an arahat, should you have some vibhava tanha? Swami Mahatma.
Actually, when Venerable Ananda mentioned about tanhang nissaya tanha pahatabbu, so that's a very interesting way of putting it. Now you have a type of craving. In order to eradicate craving, to uproot craving, so at the beginning you can't say, I am going to remove craving, so I don't want to have even a desire to practice, and you avoid practicing. So that is not the approach. Say you have to have a desire to practice also, that we can sometimes interpret as kusalachanda, wholesome kind of a desire. That is very necessary. Now on the other hand, we may have a kind of a desire, as you said, to get rid of defilements. So that is the approach that we have at the beginning. So I want to develop certain wholesome qualities, and I want to get rid of unwholesome qualities. So that is the kind of understanding we have at the beginning. But later, so what is the way of overcoming defilements? Am I really have to struggle with defilements? Do I need to hate defilements? Or is it the solution? Or is there a different approach? So that solution, that approach, the way you look at defilements, the attitude within you about the defilements may change as you practice. That's why, at the beginning, the attitude you have, the approach you have is different. Say, while you are continuing your practice, even that attitude, your approach, even can change, even vary. We can say kind of maturing it. Now the approach you are using is different. Now say, for example, say you have hatred at the beginning. Now, simply being aware of hatred, you can't remove it. So you are trying mindfulness practices, say you are trying to be aware of hatred. But your mindfulness is weak. So ultimately you become angry, you blame someone, you hit someone. So you understood, it's not going to work. So assume that you are using metta meditation. Say to some extent it might work. But later, because of your proper practice, say you do some proper mindfulness practice, satipatthana practice, insight meditation practice, later you may understand, now I can understand hatred at this very early stage. Now you don't need even the metta meditation, because the very moment that the kind of a hateful thought of ill will arising in your mind, you are quite aware of it. And once you are aware of it, once you are mindful about it, it may simply fade away. Now that becomes a kind of a mature approach for you to overcome defilements. Now it is not that you are hating defilements, that you need to get rid of defilements. Now you are taking a different approach. Now these defilements are nothing but, say, they have different thoughts. They are arising or manifest with kind of a thought. So you are now taking a different approach. So therefore we can say at the beginning we have a approach telling, I want to get rid of defilements. But later you are considering them also in a different way. So let them come. I am not afraid of them. They don't belong to me. So that's why when it comes to Chittanupassana, Buddha say, Saragan Chittanti Pajanati. Sadosan Chittanti Pajanati. So you are not sort of afraid of them. You are not taking them personally. Rather, it is merely lust. It is merely ill will. So you are capable of handling it in that level. Yeah.
The next question is from Chubi Jayasingh, from Canada. Isn't craving a positive thing in the context of advancement of knowledge?
Yeah, interesting. Uh, so that's why, I mean, our professor has become a professor because of that kind of a desire. So that's why, I mean, so that is why we can't immediately say, okay, I am going to completely eradicate desire. So let me have a desire not even to practice. I don't want to practice. So practicing, if I am getting a desire to practice, so that is also a desire. That's what I mentioned. I mean, these things have to be approached practically, not simply with the theoretical meaning, but we have to consider them pragmatically, and that's why I mentioned in certain suttas it is mentioned tanhang nissaya tanham pahatabbu. So we are using kind of a desire ultimately for what? Even to remove desire. So that's a kind of a maturity, kind of an evolution happen within the yogi, within the practitioner as you are continuing your practice. So desire to learn, desire to understand, desire to investigate, desire to learn the Dhamma, desire to practice, all these are necessary. But as you are continuing, your mind may acquire some understanding, develop certain skills, and the way you approach may also vary, may also change.
There's another question, this last one, Ishan Vadugotupitiya. If in meditation, if the disturbances are visual in nature, like projected visions of the past or future instead of thoughts, how would one try to minimize it?
Yeah. Actually, those are the type of different kinds of images, mental images, perceptions happen in the mind. So that is something that we need to carefully handle. That's why Buddha mentioned perception is like a mirage. Say your breath calms down, your all fear calming down happen, and at that moment immediately a kind of an image can happen. Say a very interesting mental image. Say say your passed away relative might appear, a celestial being might appear, a pagoda might appear. So it depends on the person, and different visualizations can happen. I am not telling that it is going to happen to everyone, but to some people it can happen. So at that time we need to remember, I am closing eyes. Right now my eyes are closed. So how this kind of a visualization going to happen then? While my eyes are closed. Now you need to understand, okay, it is a mental illusion. It's a mental visualization. It is generated by the mind. It is not the real Buddha. It is not the real pagoda. It is not the real passed away relative. It is not a real demon, real devil. It's a mental illusion. That's why Buddha mentioned Marichikupama Sanya. These different perceptions, mental images are like a mirage. Don't consider them as the real water. And you, as a solution, what you need to do is to come back to the body. The very, very easy solution is to come back to the body. So recognize what I feel right now. Feel in the sense what are the sensations available in the body. Or simply you can, if it is really troublesome, you can simply open your eyes. Then it will simply go away. Because it's a mind-made visualization. It's a mind-made mental image. So rather than giving any interest to that, rather than giving any value to that, rather than attributing a person to that, you can simply let it go by paying more attention to your body. Yeah.
Thank you, Venerable. I think there are some have asked about the recording. We will make this available to everyone so that they can then go through it. Before I invite Kamal to give the vote of thanks, I just want to read what Venerable Thero gave in our when we sent out the circular, because today I think he's covered all these things in great depth. He said we always want to do something. It could be a bodily task, could be a verbal speech, or it could be a mental fabrication. Are these all driven by our will, or are we slaves of precondition? Let's listen and discuss during the Dhamma program. I think we must thank Venerable Thero, because I think Venerable Thero has gone through all these things and has very simple but people could definitely understand it. We are very thankful to Venerable Thero, and I will now invite our committee member, Kamal Nilavira, who is based in the UK, London, to give the pay merit to Venerable Thero. You have to unmute Kamal. No. Right, okay.
Thank you, Lakshman. Buddha. On behalf of the International Dhamma Program, we pay much merit to Venerable Panadure Chandaratana Thero today. The sermon today was very interesting and useful to us all. Venerable explained about the volition towards a favorable decision for all of us to understand Lord Buddha's teachings in our daily life. This is what we aspire every day, and your sermon today was very enlightening. You used very simple language, and especially for us who are overseas, it's very, very refreshing. So, Venerable, thank you very much on behalf of all of us. We had over 230 Dhamma friends, including Venerables, Bhikkhunis participating today. We want to thank them for their time. Some had to get up very early depending on where they are located. So once again, thank you for joining us. On behalf of our panel, our grateful thanks and appreciation to Professor Lakshman Wattavala for arranging today's Dhamma session. Thank you, Lakshman. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Kamal. Venerable Thero, can I invite Venerable Thero to pay merit to the Devas and departed, and to conclude our Dhamma Desana?
Yeah, sure. So we have spent fair amount of time discussing Buddha's teaching, and whatever the merits that we have accumulated, let's share with all the celestial beings, and let's share these merits with all the past away relatives and whoever in need of merits. And let's wish these merits help us also to attain path fruition, Nibbana. While keeping these good wishes in our mind, let's recite the traditional verses. Ettavata cammehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata cammehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata cammehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Akasattha ca bummattha deva naga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhantu sasanang. Akasattha ca bummattha deva naga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhantu desanang. Akasattha ca bummattha deva naga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhantu mamparang. Idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukitā huntu ñātayo. Idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukitā huntu ñātayo. Idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukitā huntu ñātayo. Imina punya kammena māme bāla samāgamo. Satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiyā. Imina punya kammena māme bāla samāgamo. Satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiyā. Imina punya kammena māme bāla samāgamo. Satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiyā. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much, and much merit to Venerable Thero for that very useful and also the depth of coverage of our Dhamma Desana, and much merit, and that Venerable Thero will be able to continue this good work, the Dhamma Desana, and also the mindfulness lectures that Venerable Thero is conducting, and our blessings to Venerable Thero on this occasion. Sure.
So, thank you very much. Thero and Sarnai.